Larry Marble. It's the 545 edition of Down on the Farm for this 5th day of July 2023. Now, it's a Wednesday after a 4th of July Tuesday, and I'm going to take the early show off, and we'll be back with regular programming at 9:45, 12:45, and 3:45 today, and for the balance of the week. But for this show, this segment today, we choose to air Farm Bureau Roundup so we can have just a little bit more time off. Neighbor, have a good day. Thank you so much. Now, Tom Nicoletti.
Hello and welcome to Farm Bureau Roundup. On today's program, the wheat harvest on the Texas rolling plains is looking good for producers, and the demand for beef by consumers is very good this summer. Here's more from our team of reporters.
Work is pretty well wrapped up on a good wheat harvest. We saw some changes in the way we did it this year. Hello, I'm Barry Mahler, and I have the story in today's report.
The Bermuda grass stem maggot is a pest of Bermuda grass hay fields and pastures. The larva or maggot feeds in the top shoots of the Bermuda grass, causing the top 2 to 3 leaves to turn brown or white. Coming up, we will discuss this new pest. I'm Dr. Vanessa Olson from Overton.
Summer grass care in Texas is kind of a tricky business. Please join me, John Bagnall, as we talk about how we maintain our summer turf in Texas.
The 2 largest cities in the Texas High Plains have teamed up to bring a hydroponic food production company to the area. I'm James Hunt in Amarillo, and I'll have that story.
The Texas rolling plains wheat harvest has been good for most farmers in the region. Barry Mahler reports from Wichita Falls on the various changes in the crop marketing process, which includes how the wheat is delivered.
Wheat harvest just wrapped up here on the rolling plains as the custom harvesters loaded up and headed north to follow the ripening grain up through the wheat belt. It seems that every season brings change in the way we do things, and the change we saw in harvesting the crop this year was not so much the size of the equipment, the speed at which they get the job done, although it is amazing to watch, but our marketing situation, which I imagine is happening in many rural communities across the country. Now, I'm not talking about the price as it was fair, that is until the basis began to suffer late in the run, but I'm talking about how we physically deliver our crop. First part is realizing that we have advanced from teams and wagons a long time ago that hauled about 100 bushels of grain, all the way up to today's concept, the semi-trucks moving it at 800 to 1,000 bushels at a time. I understand the concept. It's just more efficient to do with a larger truck. But this is not the only change. Where we deliver has also changed, not just how. In my early days of farming, we had several elevators to deliver to. There were the local feed and grain, family-owned elevators that took advantage of the seasonal opportunity to buy grain from the farmer and move it to the terminal elevator to the Port of Houston as an additional income opportunity for the business. We also had a couple of elevators that were owned by the larger grain companies that gathered grain in the rural areas, shipped it by rail or trucks to the port for export, and prices were competitive. You had competition, and the capacity of all these combined elevators was adequate to house an average crop, and that kept the combines running. Well, this past year, we've lost some of the players. Some of it is generational change. The next generation just doesn't want to be in the grain business, and they sell to a competitor or close altogether. Some of it's due to aging facilities that get harder and more expensive to maintain. And some, I would guess, are the major grain companies preferring to have it delivered to a regional facility rather than a smaller local elevator. And also, I just bet some of it's because we have an inability to find labor for this short but intense period of time during harvest. Well, the challenge is that having to haul 100 to 200 miles away takes time. It requires more equipment to keep the combines running. Had one farmer tell me that it was a real challenge to keep up with, as it seemed like he had grain hauled all over the country. And of course, as you take players out, it makes the price less competitive, and that can soften the local market. Whatever the reason, it is a major change in the way we do business, and we'll adjust to it just as we always have. But the learning curve, it's a little bit of a challenge, especially during the pressure of harvest. Reporting from the rolling plains of Texas, I'm Barry Mahler for Farm Bureau Roundup.
Detection of damage to Bermuda grass in meadows and pastures is critical in slowing down or stopping the damage before it becomes too severe. Dr. Vanessa Olson has more from Overton.
The Bermuda grass stem maggot is native to South Asia and only infests Bermuda grass and stargrass. The adult stage of the Bermuda grass stem maggot is a small yellow fly which lays its eggs on the stem of the Bermuda grass plant. Once the eggs hatch, the maggot moves to the last or top node on the stem, burrows into the shoot, and consumes the plant material within the stem. Bermuda grass stem maggot damage resembles frost or disease damage on the Bermuda grass canopy. Upon closer examination, the chlorosis is restricted to the top 2 to 3 leaves of Bermuda grass tillers. The most characteristic sign is the ease of which these leaves can be pulled from the stem, revealing larval feeding damage within. The full-grown maggot is yellowish and about 1/8 of an inch long. Once the maggot completes feeding, it drops to the ground and enters the pupa stage. The adult fly later emerges from the pupa. The life cycle from egg to adult fly requires about 3 to 4 weeks, and there are several generations a year. Management recommendations suggest that if damage is found, proceed to harvest the crop as soon as weather conditions allow. Once the damage becomes apparent, the crop is unlikely to add a significant amount of yield. Depending on the time of year and variety, damage can reach 80% yield loss. In Texas, yield loss has been estimated to be 8.9 pounds per acre of Bermuda grass dry matter loss for each percentage of stems damaged. The damaged crop should be cut and baled and removed from the field as soon as weather conditions allow. Leaving the damaged crop in the field will only compete with any attempts for the plant to regrow and decrease the opportunity that the next cutting will have time to accumulate. Maggots feeding in the stem will die once the crop is cut and dried for harvest. However, flies will emerge from pupa in the soil and reinfest the field. To protect the regrowth from infestation, apply a pyrethroid insecticide about 7 days after cutting to kill adult flies. This is Dr. Vanessa Olson with Texas A&M AgriLife Extension in Overton for the Texas Farm Bureau Roundup.
The heat of summer can take a toll on turf grass. Horticulturist John Begnaud has some advice on summer grass care.
The heat has taken its toll on a lot of plants. Turf grass is one of those that can suffer, especially if you're in a situation that might be in bright sun, excess of 100-degree temperature, and then maybe even a little short on water, especially rainfall, which is much better than most irrigation water in Texas. So here's what we sometimes think about doing. We want to keep those plants alive, and so there's a couple of tricks that we can do. We know that if the excessive heat is an issue, and you do have access to the water, you're not in a restricted area, you can do what we call syringe the lawn. 1 or 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, you turn the system on, or you even hold the hose and water the priceless spots like hard to grow area under shade, things that you can do to cool the root system and the leaf surface down. And it's amazing. Golf courses do this syringing, especially on bent grass greens in Texas during this kind of a summer, just to increase the humidity around the plants, cool them off. So that's a little trick. We get asked a lot about fertilizer. Should I fertilize turf grass in the hot summer Texas? And the answer is, of course, it depends. If you have access to water and you're not getting the growth you need, in other words, you don't need to mow it but once every 3 or 4 weeks, then the answer is yes, because they will go south on you. They will start to fade, thin out without adequate nutrients. So it might be nitrogen that they need most of. We have turf building products. We have products like 21-7-14. But the trick is not to overdose it. You're much better off with a light application. If it calls for 10 pounds per 1,000 square feet of yard surface, then what you're going to be doing is half that to maybe 5 pounds. If you'll do this, immediately water, or as soon as you can, get it down in the root system, you're going to see a perk up. Plants may not grow as much as you want, but they'll keep their health. This is John Begnaud reporting for Texas Farm Bureau Roundup from St. Angelo.
There's a lengthy timeline involved, but James Hunt reports the 2 largest cities in the Texas High Plains have teamed up to win a lot of food production jobs.
It was great to get to work with Lubbock because obviously we compete with them on a daily basis for some projects, but it's awesome to be able to work together on a project that's going to be beneficial to both communities.
That's Kevin Carter of the Amarillo Economic Development Corporation talking about the joint effort that resulted in Amarillo and Lubbock winning what looks to be a pretty big prize. A Florida-based company, Plant Agricultural Systems, has selected the two cities as sites where facilities will be built for the hydroponic production of tomatoes, leafy greens, and other produce. So how did the two cities wind up working together? Kevin Carter says it basically came down to acreage requirements. What the company was looking for was a site of more than 1,000 acres. Well, neither city had an individual site to offer that could meet that standard, but by proposing a 400-acre site in Amarillo and a 700-acre site in Lubbock, Carter says a winning combination was put together.
And so they decided to go in both communities, which is great.
Along with the land and other economic development incentives, Carter says a big plus our region offers to Plant Agricultural Systems is a good geographic location for its operations.
You look at a 500-mile radius circle, there's 17 million people live within that 500 miles of Amarillo, Texas.
If all goes according to plan, over the next decade or so, Plant Agricultural Systems will build and grow its operations to provide approximately 1,500 jobs in the Texas High Plains. Plant Agricultural Systems' vision is to build greenhouses to grow produce hydroponically. That's hydroponically as in plants grown indoors without soil using water-based nutrient solutions. Company representative Sarah Gall told me in a recent interview that this hydroponic approach actually saves water compared with conventional crop production.
We use 70 to 90% less water when we're talking a vine crop such as tomatoes or a leafy green like lettuce. So our operation actually uses significantly less water resources in order to produce, and we're able to produce more. We're able to produce all year round, and at the same time, we're not draining those resources that are so scarce.
Sarah Gall also says the company was attracted to the Texas High Plains by our strong winds, which will be used to help power facilities. For Farm Bureau Roundup in Amarillo, I'm James Hunt.
The consumer demand for beef is very good this summer. Gary Joyner reports on the demand as the summer cooking season is heating up.
I'm in San Marcos, and I'm pleased to be joined today by the Executive Vice President of the Texas Beef Council, Molly McAdams. And Texas beef right now, strong demand for Texas beef. People are looking for that as we get into the summer cooking schedule.
Yeah, beef demand has been really strong, really even going through COVID and coming out of it. I think we saw some permanent changes in consumer behavior that has really been propping up demand, even in light of some exceptionally high beef prices at retail. Consumers are still choosing to cook at home, and that was a habit that they revisited because they couldn't go to restaurants during the pandemic. So it's all good for us. What happens when people cook at home is the majority of their meals will contain meat, and so the more that we can do to continue to build consumer confidence in our product and beef and show them the versatility, the nutrition, and the power of our bioavailable protein, that all comes together when people want to cook at home, and that's good for beef demand.
That's Molly McAdams, Executive Vice President of the Texas Beef Council in San Marcos. I'm Gary Joyner for Farm Bureau Roundup.
That is our program for this week. Thank you very much for joining us. For everyone at Farm Bureau Roundup, I'm Tom Nicoletti, and this is the Texas Farm Bureau Radio Network.
Kurt, thanks so much for helping me out. Neighbor, thanks for letting Claire and I sleep in this morning, this Wednesday after a 4th of July Tuesday. Now, we'll be back this morning at 9:45, then at 12:45 during the noon hour, at 3:45 this afternoon. And then we'll see another 4 times on Thursday, 4 times on Friday, and then Saturday morning's livestock market roundup. Now let's do the grains. Neighbor, now it's time to take a good look at the grains, courtesy of John Tuggle, Tuggle & Company, Corpus. Milo through Corpus in July, D's plus 85, 10.33. We'll call Houston, D's plus $1, 10.60. Progresso, D's even money, 8.81. And Brownsville, D's plus a dime, 8.99. A yellow corn to Corpus in July, September less 20, 4.68. We'll call Houston 5.08, Progresso 5.18. Hard red winter wheat, no bid, either Houston or Corpus. Soybeans to Houston, 12.83. Placido the same. 676 bale of East Texas, Oklahoma cotton, 734 bale of West Texas. Prices range from a $75.31 low, a $76.81 high, and an average of $76.06. against the 1,410 total bales sold statewide. Neighbor, that's it for the Best Darn Farm Show in Texas. No brag, just fact. Thanks for listening to us on our 14 Down on the Farm affiliate stations or at our website, downonthefarmradio.com. Good day.